What's going on, guys? First things first, I just trained glutes and hamstrings, so if my face is red and I look like shit, that's probably why. Second, I don't have my glasses nor my contacts in right now, so if I'm squinting, don't make fun of me for it. Anyways, I wanted to make a video today that's actually super relevant to me right now, which is probably the main reason why I want to talk about it more in depth. Not only because it's relevant to me at the moment, but it's also relative to quite a few of my clients, specifically Alex and Lindsay. So Alex and Lindsay, if you guys are watching this video, shout out to you guys. You guys kind of inspired this little rant video, whatever you want to call it. But I want to talk about some of both the physical and the psychological challenges of a gaining phase or an improvement phase or a bulk or whatever you guys want to call it, a period of time in which we are purposely pushing up our body weight with the main goal of improving our physique and adding muscle. So one of the major psychological problems that a lot of people encounter when they're pushing their body weight up is they don't want to lose their lean physique, right? So they don't want to lose their veins. They don't want to lose striations if they're that lean. They don't want to lose their abs. But at the same time, they want to make their physique better. They want to add more shape to their physique. If they're a woman, they want to improve their glutes or their shoulders or their back, whatever. If you're a guy who's a competitor, whatever, fill in the blank with whatever body part you're lagging and your physique in particular. But what you're doing by keeping your body in a lean state like that is you're not giving your body the nutrients that it needs to metabolize and produce new muscle tissue. A good analogy that I give for this is you're trying to build a building without giving yourself blocks to build or bricks to build that building with. You need to give your body the bricks so that it can build, so it has raw materials to be able to build the muscle tissue that you need to improve your physique. And that comes by eating, and it comes by eating progressively, and it comes by eating in a caloric surplus. By eating in a caloric surplus, by nature, you are going to gain body fat. Now, the goal of a good diet is to obviously put the athlete in a caloric surplus while at the same time keeping their body fat levels in check. And that's something that a good coach can do for you is kind of help you walk that line between being in a caloric surplus and just blatantly eating yourself into obesity. So that's really hard for a lot of people to mentally get over. The fact that they're going to lose their abs, the fact they're going to lose their veins, the fact that they're going to lose striations in order to be able to benefit their physique. This is one of those situations where you're going to have to take one step backwards in order to take 2 or 3 steps forward in the future. But that's very difficult for a lot of people to understand, especially if they're coming out of like a contest prep or a very prolonged caloric deficit or dieting phase. When you're in a prolonged dieting phase, like I'll just use a contest prep for example, you are used to seeing changes within your body week to week. If you're taking pictures every Monday and sending your check-ins and whatnot to your coach, you're used to seeing changes in your physique, usually week to week, assuming that the plan is going as planned. How that differs from the off-season or an improvement phase is you're not going to be seeing differences in your body week to week. You're probably not even going to be seeing differences in your body month to month, depending on how advanced you are in terms of your training age and things like that. Whether you're using anabolic performance-enhancing drugs, that's a different topic for a different day. But that in itself is also something that's very mentally difficult for people to understand, is that the process of building new muscle tissue and improving your physique, that takes significantly longer than it does to lean out and lose body fat and get lean. Like, that takes a significantly longer amount of time. A good quote that I like to use from Dante Trudel, I can't take credit for this. Dante Trudel is on record by saying that pretty much unless you're morbidly obese, it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 months maximum to go from overweight or fat, whatever, to contest lean. Where on the flip side of that, it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to put on quality muscle tissue that's going to improve your physique. So if we have one aspect of the equation that takes 3 to 5 months at absolute max, and we have another side of the equation which takes 3 to 5 years at bare minimum, which one of those should you really be focusing on? So for those who are really scared to push up their body weight because they don't want to get too fat and then have to diet down again, like, you really need to realize that the absolute worst case scenario, assuming that you don't heat yourself into like morbidly obesity, is that if you get what you consider to be fat, it's going to take anywhere from 3 to 5 months at absolute maximum to go from that level of fatness to lean. Wherein on the flip side, if you're really lean and you need to build muscle tissue, improve your arms, improve your shoulders, improve your back, chest, whatever you need to do, that is going to take 3 to 5 years. So that is something that you really need to invest a lot of time into, and you really need to put a lot of effort into that. If you're spending just as much time, I'm going to use a calendar year as an example here, 12 months in a year, if you're spending just as much time in a caloric deficit trying to lose weight and lose body fat as you are in a caloric surplus trying to improve your physique, you are spinning your wheels. And that's where we see competitors, I'm specifically talking about competitors here, year to year, where they step on stage year after year after year after year after year, and year after year after year they are showing zero improvements in their physique. They didn't build any muscle in their off season. And that's another topic for a different day, is not competing every year and actually giving yourself sufficient time in order to build muscle and make the improvements that you need to make. That's another topic for a different day. I don't really want to get into that. But it also applies to general population people that just want to get stronger. They want to get bigger so they can look better on the beach, but they're only giving themselves like 3 months in a caloric surplus before they hop back into a diet phase, to where they can lean out again. So that's something that is really like psychologically hard for a lot of people to grasp the concept of, is that you need to be able to take 1 or 2 steps forward so that you can take 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. You need to be able to take 1 or 2 steps backwards so that you can take 3, 4, 5, 6 steps forward in the future. But you also have to understand that process is going to take a long time. And again, that's something that's really psychologically hard for people to grasp the concept of. Is I don't know if it's because of today's society or whatever, but people want things really fast. And you have to understand that building a high quality physique that has lots of muscle tissue does not happen fast. This takes a significantly long time to do. You really have to invest a lot of time and a lot of energy into being able to do this. Going over quickly some of the physical challenges of a gaining phase. The longer that you're in a caloric surplus, naturally your appetite is going to decrease. So what we find with a lot of clients, or what I find with myself anecdotally, is that the longer that I'm in a phase like that, where I'm in a caloric surplus, it gets harder and harder to eat because I'm less hungry every day. On the flip side of that, as my body weight continues to push up and my training volume increases, my caloric needs increase. So you have this really honestly shitty situation where you're getting less hungry, but the food that you need to eat is increasing. So you need to be eating more and more and more and more, while it's simultaneously getting harder and harder and harder to eat more. And that's something that a lot of people really struggle with. That's something where some remedies for that are really going to differ person to person. You can keep cardio into your regimen in the off season, which I'm an advocate of doing, unless it's preventing you from the scale moving in the direction that it needs to work, or it needs to go. So for example, if you're doing 20 or 30 minutes of cardio every day, and no matter how much food you eat, you cannot gain weight, which I have a hard time believing that anyone could do, we may want to pull back on that cardio. But at the same time, cardio, any type of training in general, seems to be a very good appetite stimulant. whatever. It seems to be a pretty good stimulator. I said stimulant. I meant stimulator. Fuck it, I'm just going to keep this one take. Anyways, keeping some cardio into your off season, maybe 20 minutes, 2-3 days a week, is going to be a good idea to help keep that appetite rolling. Again, assuming that it doesn't prevent you from gaining weight, which I think would be something that really is only applicable in the extreme situations. For example, I was following Matt Jansen's his off-season log from last year, 2018, and he was eating 1,000 grams of carbs every day, 130 or 120 grams of fat, and almost 400 grams of protein. So his calories were upwards into like the 7,000s or something like that. And he was still struggling to gain weight, so he could not do cardio in his off season because the cardio was just another hindrance in allowing him to push his body weight and benefit his physique. Again, that's a very extreme situation. That's something that is really only applicable in the extreme. Another thing we can do to help improve our appetite is to remove or at least limit stimulant use. I find this is super common with general population clients. They like to fucking 2-scoop their pre-workouts, and each scoop's got 300 some milligrams of caffeine in it. So they're literally taking in like 1,000 milligrams of caffeine in a daily basis. Caffeine and stimulants in general is going to be something that by nature is going to blunt our appetite. That is why something like stimulants and caffeine are so beneficial in a contest prep or a prolonged calorie deficit, is because that's going to help you as you get hungrier and hungrier. That's going to help you blunt your appetite. Also, the further and deeper we get into the depths of a contest prep, naturally our energy is going to decrease just because our body is being deprived of body fat, it's being deprived of nutrients, and our hormone panel is changing to be less anabolic, so we're naturally just going to be more tired. So I like to save things like caffeine, if possible, for a deficit. And even within a deficit or a contest prep, like say you're doing a 20-week contest prep, I would push off the caffeine and the stimulants for as long as you absolutely can, and I would only use them when they're absolutely needed. I don't want to get into sidetrack here about stimulant use in a contest prep, but that's something that is still applicable in the off season. If we have, again, a situation where our food requirements are going up, our appetite is decreasing, but we're also giving ourselves something that blunts our appetite, we're kind of fighting against a current in that sense. So it's gonna naturally make it even harder to eat the food that we need to grow. And rule number one of bodybuilding, specifically in the off season, is you never miss a meal. So if we're taking something like that, like a stimulant, and it's making it harder for us to eat, then we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot there. So anyways, those are just kind of some quick psychological and physical challenges that come with being into an improvement phase, a bulk gaining phase, whatever you want to call it. But we have to understand that we need to be treating our gaining phase or our off season just as importantly as we treat a contest prep, because that is where the improvements are made, is in the off season. So if we're slacking off in our off season and not eating the amount that we need to eat and not training as hard as we need to train and not recovering like we need to be, the next time we step on stage or the next time we diet down for the beach or for summer, we're going to look the exact same. So we need to be able to overcome these physical and psychological challenges so that we can benefit our physique in the long run and be able to make improvements from year to year to year and stop spinning our wheels. Anyways, if you guys have any questions, go ahead, drop a comment. I'll leave my Instagram and stuff in the description if anyone gives a shit enough to shoot me a question. I leave my coaching email in there too. I'm going to leave my blogger link in the description. I made an Instagram post the other day where I'm going to be using my blog and my YouTube a lot more frequently now. I am now like working full time in the fitness industry, so this is something YouTube and blogging, I guess you could say, is more of an extension of my business now. It's not something that I do just for fun. I do enjoy it, but it isn't something that I do just for fun. This is now an extension of my training business, so this has just become more and more important to me and for the success of my future business, so I'm going to try and be a lot more active on it. Anyways, take it easy, guys. Have a good one, and keep eating.